Today, we're tearing into a really fascinating stack of source material. It's focused on this single vital tissue, skeletal muscle. Often, we think of it just for weightlifting, maybe bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But according to the experts we looked at, it's actually the true engine for, well, human longevity.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're interested in figuring out how to age well, keep your energy high, and maybe build a real defense against chronic disease, we're suggesting a pivot today, away from just calorie counting or, those complex low-carb plans. The foundation for all of it, the surprising idea in this deep dive, it starts with your skeletal muscle.
That's absolutely right. We're exploring these concepts behind what's called muscle-centric medicine. It's a paradigm really pioneered by Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She's a physician, board certified, with this dual background in geriatrics and nutrition science. And she makes this a really compelling case that shifting our focus, medically speaking, away from just fat tissue, adipose tissue, and onto muscle health, that might be the most powerful thing we can actually do for ourselves.
So the goal for you listening.
Yeah, the goal today is to kind of move beyond thinking muscle is just for getting strong. We want you to understand why it's actually considered the body's largest organ, structurally speaking.
Largest organ, wow.
And how optimizing it, through specific nutrition and the right kind of training can provide this protective barrier for your whole system's health.
Okay, let's unpack that, this enormous idea. Starting with the scale, you said largest organ.
Yeah.
Skeletal muscle makes up, about 40% of most people's body weight on average?
That's the figure, yeah. 40%.
Think about that. 40%, it's massive.
Yeah.
By volume, by mass.
Yeah.
It is your body's largest organ.
And logically, if something that big is unhealthy, well, you can't be healthy overall. It just doesn't work. The core idea, the tenet of muscle-centric medicine, is pretty straightforward. The health of your skeletal muscle. It directly dictates the health of everything else.
For better or worse.
For better or for worse. And it's an immediate course correction, really. Decades.
Yeah.
Focusing almost just on fat tissue, on obesity.
Right. Address the fat.
This flips it. Address the muscle first.
I found the story of how this concept really came about. It was really enlightening. Dr. Lyon was working on a project, right, looking at body composition and brain function.
A graduate project.
And one participant, a woman stuck in that awful yo-yo dieting cycle, she gave Dr. Lyon this huge aha moment.
Indeed. This participant, she was showing all the classic signs, metabolic dysfunction, elevated blood sugar, insulin resistance, struggles with weight. Usual picture.
Okay.
But then, as part of the study, she had a brain scan. And the image was startling. Her brain. It looked like it was showing the very early stages of Alzheimer's disease.
Wow. That's a staggering connection to make. So if the traditional thinking was just about her weight, her fat mass, why did that brain scan make Dr. Lyon think the root problem was muscle?
Well, because all those symptoms, the inflammation throughout the body, the insulin resistance, the metabolic chaos, we often blame fat tissue.
Yeah, that's the common narrative.
But the sources argue the root cause, the breakdown in that metabolic communication. It often starts with dysfunctional muscle tissue. Think about it. If your largest metabolic reserve, your muscle, isn't working right,
the whole system goes haywire.
Exactly. Your entire system starts to fail. The fat tissue might just be the symptom you can see easily, but it points to a deeper skeletal muscle problem. And that insight, it basically shifted her entire career. Fix the muscle, and the rest, including the brain, tends to follow.
So the last, 50 years of health advice has been mostly reduce fat, reduce fat. Dr. Lyon's work suggests we should have been just as focused, maybe more focused on building or at least maintaining muscle. So if we ignore muscle, what's actually going wrong? Like fundamentally?
Well, when muscle becomes sedentary, inactive, it pretty much immediately enters a state of dysfunction. And we're not just talking about losing strength, though that happens. The tissue itself actually degrades.
It degrades how?
It starts with this low-level chronic inflammation spreading throughout the body. And that's, the precursor to almost every chronic disease we talk about.
Okay, let's get granular. Like you said, let's unpack the mechanics.
Yeah.
What do the sources say happens inside the muscle cell when it's just sitting there too long?
Yeah, the inactivity causes real foundational damage. Two main things seem to happen. First, fat actually starts to infiltrate the muscle fibers themselves.
Fat in the muscle.
Yeah, it creates scar tissue, basically. It's called fibrosis. Second, and this is maybe the most damaging for just feeling energetic day to day, this fibrosis, this fat infiltration, it displaces the mitochondria.
Ah, the powerhouses of the cell. Right, that's what they always say in biology class.
Exactly. They generate the cell's energy, ATP. So when you displace the mitochondria, you're crippling the cell's ability to make energy. That impacts foundational cellular health way beyond just, how much you can lift. It creates this systemic vulnerability.
And okay, beyond strength and even cellular energy,
Mm-hmm.
muscle has this huge role in metabolic health. You hear it overshadows even the liver or pancreas for blood sugar.
Absolutely. The source material often called skeletal muscle the body's primary metabolic sink. It's a great term.
Metabolic sink.
Meaning when you eat carbs, that glucose enters your bloodstream. It has to go somewhere, right? Well, roughly 80% of the glucose cleared from your blood, it's taken up by your skeletal muscle.
80%. That's most of it.
The vast majority. So when your muscle is healthy, active, sensitive to insulin, it just sucks that glucose right out of circulation. Keeps things balanced, metabolic control. But if the muscle is sedentary, maybe infiltrated by fat, like we said, insulin resistant, that glucose, it just stays hanging around the bloodstream, driving up chronic inflammation everywhere.
So muscle health is basically the body's main traffic cop for blood sugar. Makes sense.
Yes.
And then there's this other incredible thing. The communication system muscle uses when it is active.
Ah, yes.
When muscle contracts, like during exercise, it releases these little hormones,
Yeah.
myokines.
Myokines, yeah. They're really fascinating, sometimes called hope molecules, which I like.
Hope molecules, why?
Because they're responsible for creating this wide-ranging inter-organ crosstalk. That's the technical term. They're essentially messages. Released by working muscle, they travel through your blood, and they interface directly with vital systems, your bones, your immune system, and critically your brain.
Okay, that's the key detail I think people listening need. How quickly does this work? If I finish a strength workout, how soon are these myokines telling my brain to, say, lower inflammation or improve focus?
It's pretty much an immediate benefit. The effect size depends on, the intensity and duration of the training. But the stimulus is the signal. The muscle contraction itself sends the message. And those myokines that talk to the brain, they're often neurotrophic factors. They actually promote brain plasticity, brain health.
So exercise is like deploying your own anti-inflammatory agents.
In essence, yes. It's one of the quickest ways to get systemic anti-inflammatory effects throughout your entire body. Targeted delivery from your own muscles.
That sounds like a really powerful reason to get ahead of the curve, especially as we talk about aging. Because even if we're exercising like mad right now, we know aging itself throws up a challenge for keeping muscle, right?
It absolutely does. This is where we run into something called anabolic resistance.
Anabolic resistance. Okay.
As we age, just naturally, our cells become less sensitive to the key nutrient for building and repairing muscle, which is dietary protein.
So we need more protein just to get the same effect.
Exactly. You need a higher threshold of protein intake, and you need a stronger physical signal the exercise to get the same muscle protein synthesis you got easily in your 20s.
Yeah.
This anabolic resistance, it's what leads to that slow, often unnoticed loss of muscle mass over the years. Sarcopenia.
Okay, so we have this necessary duo then. We need the building blocks protein,
Mm-hmm.
and we need the signal strength training.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Lyon called it a catch-22, which brings up something I hear all the time. People say, oh, diet is 80% of the battle, especially for how you look, body composition.
Right, the 80-20 rule.
How does Dr. Lyon's work fit with that? If training is so crucial as the signal, which one gives us the best immediate return from muscle health, diet or training?
Yeah, that 80-20 thing, it often applies best if your only goal is weight loss, just shedding pounds. But for muscle health, for longevity, they're inseparable. You can't prioritize one over the other in the same way. You absolutely cannot build muscle without enough protein, period. The blocks aren't there. But you also won't build muscle in a meaningful way, especially a way that combats that anabolic resistance. Just by eating protein, if you're not sending that strong signal from resistance training, the source material really emphasizes training is the switch. It flips your body's sensitivity to the nutrients on.
That framework helps a lot. It's not prioritizing, it's integrating. Both have to be there. And what's really hopeful in all this is how adaptable muscle seems to be. regardless of your age.
That adaptability piece.
Huh?
That's where your control lies. It's the key point. Think about this. A young person, maybe in their 20s, but totally sedentary. Their muscle can start to show the metabolic dysfunction, the structural issues of an aging muscle.
Yeah. Sedentary is like accelerated aging for muscle.
In a way, yes, but the reverse is the good news. Strategic exercise, the right kind. It makes aging muscles more sensitive to nutrients again. It allows them to respond metabolically much more like younger muscles.
We have that great example, right? The study Dr. Lyon did with postmenopausal women.
Yes, perfect illustration. These women used a routine that was, honestly, remarkably approachable.
What did they do?
5 days of just walking. General activity, plus just 2 days a week of resistance training. And they combined that with a protein-rich diet.
Okay, walking, 2 strength days, high protein, and the results.
They didn't just maintain their muscle mass, which frankly would be a huge win in that age group.
Right, because muscle loss is expected then.
Exactly. But they were actually able to put on new muscle mass. It just reinforces that exercise doesn't have to be, hours in the gym every day. It just needs to be consistent and include that specific resistance stimulus.
Okay, this brings us perfectly to the really practical part, the actionable takeaways. How do we actually apply this muscle-centric idea to our week, to our training, to our food? Let's start with the training recommendations from the sources.
Okay, the baseline, the foundational goal is pretty straightforward. Aim for a minimum of 2 days a week of full body strength training.
2 days minimum.
Well, 2 days minimum. Now, if you want the optimal benefits, the kind seen in the research, Dr. Lyon generally recommends 3 to 4 days of structured resistance training per week. And ideally, you'd incorporate 1 day of high intensity interval training too, HIIT.
Okay, 3-4 days resistance, maybe 1 HIIT. And crucially, for anyone thinking, I hate lifting heavy weights, the sources really stress the intensity principle over just how much weight is on the bar.
That is the absolute defining factor. It's critical. To create that necessary stimulus, the signal for the muscle to repair, grow, and crucially, enhance that protein sensitivity, you have to push to the point of momentary muscular failure, or at least get very, very close to it.
So the last few reps should be really hard.
They should be a real struggle. You're pushing right to the edge of your capability for that set, that intensity, that signaling. It's biologically way more important than just the number of pounds or kilos.
I also like the practical tips for getting more activity outside the gym, making fitness a habit, not just an event.
Yes, the goal there is boosting what's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. Basically, burning calories without exercising.
Ow.
Simple things can be powerful, like wearing a weighted vest sometimes during the day, or even just weighted ankle bands. You're adding low-level resistance to mundane tasks, making muscles work a little harder all day long.
Great.
Dr. Lyon uses this great analogy. Look, we've managed to integrate smartphones, iPads, computers into our daily routines, right? They're habits now.
Absolutely. Almost unconsciously.
We can absolutely do the same with fitness habits. Small things.
Like the example of doing push-ups right after you brush your teeth.
Exactly. Or doing a set of squats while the kettle boils.
Building those small, consistent pathways in the brain, making it automatic.
Precisely. It's about deciding to prioritize the health of your largest organ, just like you prioritize checking your email.
Right.
It needs that level of habitual attention.
Okay, let's switch gears to the nutrition side. Protein. Clearly the cornerstone here. What are the key numbers? Daily intake. And what about distribution? You mentioned that was critical.
Yeah, the daily target from the sources is, well, it's ambitious for many people, but it seems necessary for really priming that anabolic environment. Aim for 0.7 to 1 gram of protein daily per pound of your ideal body weight.
1 gram per pound of ideal weight.
Okay. But maybe even more crucial than just hitting that total number is the distribution of that protein throughout the day.
Because you mentioned that threshold needed to actually flip the switch for muscle building.
Yes. You really need to aim for 30 to 50 grams of protein, specifically at breakfast and again at dinner.
30 grams minimum per meal, twice a day.
That seems to be the minimum threshold required to really signal to the muscle, okay, time to turn on the synthesis machinery.
Okay, 30 to 50 grams at breakfast. That sounds like a lot for people who are used to, coffee and toast or a bowl of cereal.
It is a big shift for many.
How do the sources suggest hitting that without just chugging protein shakes all morning?
It definitely requires being intentional about it. The sources give some clear examples, like 4 ounces of lean chicken or steak. That's about 28 grams of protein right there.
Okay.
So if you had that maybe left over from dinner with a couple of eggs, you're easily over the 30-gram minimum.
Right. Or breakfast could be?
Maybe Greek yogurt, which is high protein with a scoop of whey protein mixed in, or cottage cheese. It's really about moving away from those very carb-heavy breakfasts and making protein the star, especially first thing in the morning to combat that natural anabolic resistance.
And when choosing protein sources, the focus is definitely on quality.
Absolutely. Prioritize high-quality, complete animal proteins, things like lean red meat, poultry, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, whey protein. The sources are pretty clear that while plants are essential for fiber, vitamins, minerals, they shouldn't be your primary source if you're aiming for that optimal amino acid profile for muscle maintenance and growth.
Okay. And the beauty here is sticking to this kind of protein-focused diet. The benefits ripple out way beyond just muscle, right?
Oh, hugely. We're talking about massive systemic advantages. Things like stable, balanced blood sugar all day long. Getting rid of those afternoon energy crashes.
Yeah, the 3 p.m. slump.
Exactly. Also, increased sustained energy overall, improved mental clarity, focus, and a powerful reduction in cravings, especially for sugary or starchy foods. Plus, remember those fascinating side findings, like in that resistance training study?
It's in.
Yeah. Participants reported having tighter, more youthful-looking skin, so there might even be cosmetic benefits alongside all the internal health stuff.
So this deep dive, it makes it incredibly clear, doesn't it? Optimizing the health of your largest organ, your muscle, using this combined power, consistent, intense strength training, plus a protein-rich diet. Feel like the most tangible, voluntary, and, well, powerful action you can actually take to protect yourself from so many chronic diseases down the line.
That's the core message, absolutely. The central theme tying all this source material together is really one of control, agency. Unlike, your genetics or some other risk factors, we have voluntary control over the health and function of this massive metabolically crucial tissue.
We choose whether to activate it and feed it properly.
We do. And this leads to a final kind of provocative thought, something Dr. Lyon often raises. What if what we think of, what we accept as natural aging, that slow, creeping decline, less vitality, less strength, less energy?
Yeah, just getting older.
What if that's not entirely natural? What if it's actually the acceleration of skeletal muscle aging, driven purely by inactivity and, frankly, undernourishing the muscle?
So we're accelerating our own decline by not using our bodies as designed.
That's the implication. The human body seems fundamentally designed to be pushed, to be challenged, and to be fed properly to recover. So the question for you listening is, what intentional, maybe even small push can you make today to start combating that potential acceleration, to start prioritizing your body's true engine for longevity?